Yum, yum. It's time for a tasty and refreshing snack.
You know who I can do without? I can do without the people in the video store.
Which ones?
All of them. They never rent quality flicks. They always pick the most intellectually devoid movie on the racks.
And now, on with the show.
The city streets are a crime-infested jungle where one undercover cop plays by his own rules. Lorenzo Lamas is Snake Eater, a cop who makes sure the bad guys stick around.
Drugs are America's #1 problem, and children are dying. Soldiers seen enough. Now, Snake Eater's back, and he wants revenge. Armed, dangerous, and deadly, he's going after the kid killers. Snake Eater's back with a vengeance. An outlaw biker gang is running wild, and the justice system can't stop them.
Hey guys, what's going on? You are listening to ThisWeekInGeek.net's Loose Cannon. This is the show where we explore the video stories of yesteryear. We walk down the aisles where you could actually, once upon a time, physically rent movies. I know, weird, right? But I am one of your video clerks today, sitting behind the counter, probably doing nothing, much like Randall from the series Clerks. I am Mike the Birdman, but I'm joined by my much more knowledgeable compatriots from the lovely city of Kitchener, Ontario, Canada.
Alex, the producer here.
And of course, the Knowledgeum, the Google, the man who seems to know everything and everyone.
Oh, I don't, but I'm Aaron Pollyea.
So yes, guys, we are here to talk about...
Well, wait, it's because we go by age of seniority. If you're older, you automatically know more people.
Oh,
that's just how we're going on toddler logic. Okay.
Yes.
See, all right. Fair enough.
So yes, guys, we are here to talk about a series of movies that you've probably heard of, but you probably don't know why you've heard about these movies.
I can tell you exactly why and where you've heard of it. And this will apply to everyone in North America. It doesn't matter what state, doesn't matter what province. Every single one of you saw Snake Eater 1 on the shelf of every video rental store from 1988 till about 2004. It was never rented, and it was also at every single corner store that happened to have a few VHS tapes to rent. And it was also never rented.
So, yes. So, if you haven't gathered it by now, we're going to be talking about the Lorenzo Lamas epic trilogy of movies. This is the Snake Eater trilogy with Snake Eater 1, Snake Eater 2, Drug Buster, and Snake Eater 3, His Law. Which, for some reason, I thought Snake Eater 2 had a different name for, like, decades up until we watched it, like, yesterday. Or
it might have. Like, but what's weird is, this is a franchise where if you'd think that it would have a Wikipedia article pretty detailed for each one, because this was kind of like the poster child for the direct-to-video action movie of the late 80s, early 90s, when they were looking for anything and everything to fill the shelves. And you'd think there'd be more in it, but the third movie doesn't have a Wikipedia article.
Yeah, which actually kind of surprised me, because the third one, well, I suppose we'll get to it, because these movies are very... I don't know. They're bland, but they're not bad. I mean, I guess I'll go first.
Oh, they're bad.
Yeah. Well, I think they're bland. You're right that they're bland in a way that is
inoffensive?
Action movie. No, I mean, this is action movie. So I guarantee you, while talking about this, since I didn't watch these like today or yesterday, I watched these about 4 or 5 days ago. Mm-hmm. I guarantee you I will mix up what movie had which scene.
Yeah, like, okay, so to kind of give everybody here, as we often do off the top of the show, we often talk about how we came to see these movies. And for these movies, I've actually been aware of these since about the early 1990s. Like Alex was mentioning, they were always on the video shelf, but I come at this from a slightly different angle. So growing up, my parents had pirate satellite. We had the giant dish in the backyard. We paid the cable guy an extra $50 so we could get pirate television. So I had HBO, I had Cinemax, I had Showtime, all those channels. And I seem to recall being at my uncle's house in the 1990s. And this was always on Cinemax or Showtime because I very clearly, distinctly remember some announcer's voice saying, coming up next on Cinemax, it's Snake Eater 2, The Reckoning, or Drug Buster, or whatever the fuck it was called. But I remember that crystal clearly. And I seem to recall the box art for this movie as well, because for some reason I've got this image in my head, and I can't tell you if it's real or not, of Lorenzo Lamas posed like Sylvester Stallone next to a motorcycle holding like a gun, like he would in like I want to say like Red Heat or Cobra or something. And
that's actually the third movie's cover.
Yeah, like I just seem to recall seeing it a lot as a kid growing up.
What you saw was Snake Eater 1 and Snake Eater 3. 2 was almost never at any store.
Which is weird because that's the one that I remember the most.
I remember this. I remember the first film, and also from Cinemax. And it was one of those like late night, my buddies are over from high school, we're just watching crap on cable, and that came on. And it's because I remember the opening scene of the hillbillies on the houseboat. That's super memorable, at least to me. That stuck with me for like, I don't know, 25 years now. That, oh, it's this movie. Oh crap. Now that I'm watching it. And I don't remember anything else from the movie, so we probably shut it off at some point. But yeah, I do remember it. I do remember it. And I do remember seeing it in video stores. Just because of that iconic first movie poster.
Well, probably because it had, it was a nothing. All three of them were basically nothing productions, which I didn't know until watching that they were produced up here in Canada by a Canadian production company. But the original VHS run, I think the first movie had a very limited release in theaters, like ever so slightly, like showing up at like film festivals sort of things. But the original run on VHS was put out by Paramount, so it had a wide release.
Mm-hmm.
And then subsequently, I think Lionsgate bought the rights to it. But that might be because Lionsgate, I think, owns the production company that made it, like through a bunch of weird acquisitions over the years. So it's probably one of those tapes, and I can almost guarantee it, that they were like, hey, if you want to get Top Gun for all of your rental stores, you also have to get this tape. You know, like where they would do that, where they package in a bunch of crap that nobody wants to try to either sweeten the deal or force more Paramount movies upon whatever store.
Sure.
So, all right. So I've talked about my history with this. Alex, how did you find these movies?
Again, every single store ever that I ever went to had a copy of it on the shelf. And then I picked up the VHS of the first movie for $1.97 or 97 cents at my local bookstore. It sat on my shelf, and the plan was for us to get all three of them and then do a marathon with my buddies, like in the late 90s, early 2000s. And then we just never did. And then I think I took 200 or 300 VHS tapes to a used store, and then got like $30 for all of them, because I was like, I don't want to take these with me when I move, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then I never got around to actually watching it until now.
Was it worth the wait?
Oh yeah, I loved it. I loved it so much. It's so bad. Oh, and I guess my history with it was I knew Lorenzo Lamas. I knew that this was the series he was in, but I got like, my mom saw him, like saw the cover of that tape when I picked it up, and she's like, "Oh, the guy from Falcon's Crest," and I'm like, "From what?" Because that show I think ended before I was born, and I was like, "Oh, is that like the show that was like Dallas?" And she's like, "Yeah, but not as good." I was like, okay, so he's from Falcon's Crest. So like, that's what like all of the moms of like all the boomer moms watched that show, and they're like, oh, he was that hot young guy on that show. So that's how he got his career, right? But where I knew him from was that syndicated show that he had for like the better part of the 90s, Renegade. which was it was like the motorcycle action traveling around America saving people show that everybody was doing shows like that. And I remember it was always on like locally, either right before or right after Baywatch, because it was like one of those shows where it was syndicated around the world and had like 100 million viewers. Lorenzo Lamas is the renegade, and so that's where I knew him from, and that's what introduced me to this movie series. He is by no means a good actor.
The weird thing about Lorenzo Lamas, though, as I was kind of watching these movies, and I got to thinking about Action USA and American Rampage we were watching the other week. The thing that I liked about these movies is Lorenzo Lamas, despite not being a very good actor, he does have a certain charm to him.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh, and he got a lot better after these movies, because it was right after these movies that he got the TV show. And being the lead in an action show where he clearly in the first movie and even into the second one had no action experience. Look at the choreography, we'll get into that. But the show got pretty good because he had to do like 110 episodes of action where he's the lead. And then he had other shows like Air America, which was, yes, it was somewhat a spoof or take on or TV version of the movie. And then he did what I remember, like Mike, on the Space Channel, he had the show The Immortal.
Oh, the Highlander ripoff thing.
It was Highlander and Blade ripoff with him. So like he was sort of ever present on Canadian TV movies, even though he's American. So like he got better as he went along. It's just this is rough.
Yeah,
at the beginning.
This is. I do agree that he has charm in these movies. He really does. He has that kind of smarmy charm that you would typically associate with like super young Harrison Ford.
He kind of gave me vibes of the guy from Action USA, kind of in almost the same costume in kind of a weird kind of way too.
Oh, wow. I guess I can see that. I can see that.
Yeah, like I said, just kind of watching these movies before we kind of dive into each one individually.
Well, you know where the charm comes from, right?
Because like his dad's super famous or something, or his mom or something.
Yeah. His dad was Fernando Lamas, one of those original Latin lovers in all those old golden era Hollywood pictures.
Yeah, like there's just something about him that's very magnetic and very likable. I also found out he does a fair amount of voice work too.
And if you see any videos or any times where he's been at like Comic Cons and that, he's like one of those super awesome dudes to hang out with. Like,
wow.
And so that's why, like, people are like, if you saw these movies, you're like, how did he have a career? It's like, well, not just that he was good, like he's one of those dudes that connects with the fans. So it's like, okay, I get it. And also watching these movies, like you can tell that he's having fun because he knows they're dumb. Everybody else is sort of playing it very straight, and he's kind of like, okay, I guess we're only doing one take.
Yeah, that's kind of the vibe that I was kind of getting from this. I mean, like I was watching these in a row last night, although I did take a break to watch the third one today. But I'm watching it and I was just listening to him explain his like character story, and then we'll kind of get into the individual kind of movies here. His name is Jack Soldier Kelly, because that's a nickname you give to somebody.
Remember, no name in the first movie.
Yeah, he was just Soldier.
Just Soldier.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, I think they do say his name once.
Do they?
Yes, when the two cops are in the car, they're like talking about who like he is.
Oh yeah,
yeah, where it's
he's
all
the new
exposition
guy.
until they make a homeless man drink urine.
Yeah,
which again we'll get into.
Jeez.
And I almost spit out my drink because I started laughing so hard.
But yeah, like this movie, like when I was watching it, like just listening to some of the names and some of the plot, it totally sounds like somebody had just thought this up thinking, okay, I can get $1 million to make a movie, but I got to have the pitch in by 5:00 this afternoon and it's 3:30 right now. What do I have? And the name just sounds so made up. You know what it made me think of? Do you remember that episode of The Simpsons where Homer gives himself the name Max Power? That's what this made me think. It was like, that sounds so fucking made up and stupid.
Like, dude, if you he was a supporting actor in a couple of movies prior to this. Like, obviously he had that TV show, but like he was in like a movie in '79 before the TV show. His direct movie before this, when he was like doing Falcon's Crest, was Body Rock.
Oh God.
He's the lead actor in Body Rock, for which he got a nomination for a Golden Razzie. So this was a step up. This didn't get a Golden Razzie nod.
So let's go into the first Snake Eating movie. Who wants to take on this gem?
Me.
Go get him, Alex. Go get him, buddy.
So, Snake Eater, it is every late 80s, early 90s, ultra violent, but at the same time not quite going there trope rolled into one. And then some. There are moments in this where it feels like a trauma picture, like almost a parody.
Yeah.
But then it's not a parody. It's a very serious parody. And the movie starts, as we mentioned, where they're giving a little bit of exposition with these two bumbling detectives who are having the most stilted, worst community theater actor dialogue between them.
Oh, I knew
we were awkward.
We were in deep as soon as I started hearing these guys talk, because they're clearly Canadian and they're clearly trying a different accent.
No, it's not just. I was trying to pick it out. I'm like, okay, they're Canadian. I know they're Canadian, but I was like, they're not from Alberta. They are not from rural Canada. Like, they're not from rural Ontario. They are somewhere from a major city in Ontario or Vancouver area. Because really, our accents are very similar in the Vancouver, West Coast, and Ontario. I'm like, but they're trying to do. I was like, it's not Chicago. Are they trying to do Detroit?
No, they're trying to do New York.
See, and I was like, but it's not near. And then I was thinking, is it Jersey?
That's what it starts coming off as.
And then I finally settled on it. They're trying to do like Long Island, like adjacent to the cities. That's all I could figure is like, it's not upstate, but they're trying, and they are failing bad. And as you said, a homeless person, or as what do we say now? What's the term?
Housing insecurity.
Yeah. Somebody experiencing housing insecurity walks up and asks for some change, specifically to get a coffee. And he says, right after the detective has peed into his coffee cup, and then he says, "No, here, take it." And he takes it away, and they're laughing at that. And when I saw that, I went, oh God, this is going to be one of those horrifically cruel movies that I'm going to find hilarious and embarrassing, and I'm just going to nonstop laugh the whole time. And if I was around other people, I'd feel embarrassed for how much I love it.
And did you laugh?
Yes.
And I'm going to make you feel bad. I already told you. Yes. I already told you this. Darlene watched this movie with me, and she had nightmares because of this movie.
Okay. 50, you can tell her 50% of me feels for her and I feel horrific, and maybe 49%, and 51% is laughing to my core that this happened. I'm sorry, Darlene, but I'm also not sorry. I'm going to be that kind of friend.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, sort of.
You're sorry adjacent.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that it upset you. So I was like, oh, we're in for a treat. And then, then we start going into elements of weird, like beyond regular bad movie weird, where we meet Snake Eater, who has set up traps for, he's like a Vietnam vet who sets up traps, but they're nonsensical in that he sets up a bunch of spikes in the ground, or nails in the ground, that come up through the ground, but like in this dilapidated building that doesn't, I don't know how he had the time to set it up. Because they're doing
this is Home Alone. This is Macaulay Culkin. If he like got ripped buff and decided to like fully embrace the sociopathic tendencies that he showed in the Home Alone movies.
Yeah. So
these
a drug
traps
dealer,
are insane.
It's supposed to be a drug sting, and instead of the drug dealer initially showing up, it's a woman who he proceeds to convince to get naked and have sex just to prove that he doesn't have a wire on him, which we find out later on he hid it up his butt.
No. He didn't. He implied that he had it up his butt, but he had a fake mullet.
Oh, that's right. That's
the joke. Haha.
Oh, that's right. I watched all three in a row. But so, and again, this for no reason at all, the actress takes her top off, and she's got a huge ass open heart surgery scar.
I was surprised about that.
Yeah,
that
same
was,
here.
I mean,
And like, we're not talking like fake. I was looking for the gum. Like, no, she's somebody who had open heart surgery or had her ribs like reset or
she's
something.
very young too, so that means that it was most likely like open heart
Like a car
surgery.
accident.
Well, it was surgery when she was a child. She had a heart problem.
Like a murmur or a hole or something that had to be fixed,
Yeah.
or stents or something put in, like, because like she could have been more than like 22 or 23.
Yeah, 22, 23.
And-
I was surprised because that's a real scar.
And like, I thought like, oh, is it supposed to be like she's like been cut up? And I'm looking, and I paused the movie, and I got up out of my chair and walked closer to my TV to look, and I'm going, no, that's a real, like, full blown, like she had a pacemaker put in scar.
Mhm.
And I'm like, that's such an odd choice. Like, and again, we're not shaming. It's like, it's not like, oh, you should have hired somebody who didn't have that, because she's a beautiful lady.
Mhm.
But it's like, that's just an odd choice. Like, did the director do that because he's like, this is kind of cool?
No, I think it's that she was the right actress for the right part, willing to do a topless scene. She just has a scar.
Yeah.
And
I've never
credit
seen
credit's
that in
due.
the movie.
That's actually a good call. Like the director did not discriminate against her because she had a scar.
No.
Great.
And also he didn't bring attention to it.
Yeah, he didn't.
So that's what made me double take and go, oh, this isn't part of the plot. Like, I was fully expecting for like him to like start to make out with her, and then as he like goes down her body, he starts hearing like a ticking, and she's got a bomb inside her or something.
Yeah,
like that.
I mean, it's just
what
not
I was
something
expecting.
you normally see in these movies, so that's why it felt like it was a plot point. I agree. I thought there was going to be some sort of plot point to it, but I was really impressed with the fact that it wasn't. That's just, she's a regular human being.
Yeah. So again, I'm not going to dwell on that any further. Just it was odd. It felt weird at first, and then I was like, okay, we're in for something different. And we move forward. we move forward in this nonsensical ridiculousness, and we find out that we end up Snake Eater, or I guess I'm just going to keep calling him Snake Eater, even though his name is Soldier or whatever. The Snake Eater is riding his motorcycle and has to swerve out of the way of some kids that are running across the street, gets launched like a missile into this bar, lands, does a somersault, gets helped up. Everybody in the bar just knows him, like, oh, that's Soldier. And he starts to walk around, but this one bad guy is pissed. He's pissed that he broke his drink and he was playing games, and better watch out. This guy collects teeth when he beats people up, and we have a really awkward fight scene where he beats him and knocks out that guy's teeth, and he's like, here's more for your collection. And as we think that one random fight is over, another random fat slob stands up behind and starts doing karate moves, and it makes like Bruce Lee, and I'm like, what in the actual fuck is happening?
They throws beer bottles at him, and he's shooting those out of the air with his fists.
He throws a beer bottle up into the air, and when the guy looks up, throws another one at him, and then the top one falls on top of him. And it's the most like cartoon
Looney Tunes bullshit.
Looney Tunes Hanna-Barbera bullshit, and it even has the sound effects. And I'm like, what's
going on? Can I also
what's
say
with the tone?
that this is a scene where, as an American, you know that this scene is supposed to be in America, but is clearly in Canada.
Oh yes. Well, I mean, there's plenty of times where they're eating a whole bunch of Hostess chips, and Hostess doesn't exist anymore because Lay's bought them.
Yeah.
So like, I'm looking at and like all the license plates of the cars are obscured and blurred, and I'm like, what? And then we're there, and a police officer shows up from nondescript police force in the middle of nowhere. It's a city cop, and they're at a country bar. You'd figure it would be a sheriff or something, but they're like, hey, the only costume we have is for a city cop. Anyway, he shows up and he's like, hey, I'm not here to cause any trouble. Like, the cop knows not to fuck with them.
Yeah.
And he's like, I got some bad news. Your whole family's fucking dead.
Sorry about that, soldier. Sorry.
Yeah, I got some bad news. Your whole family's dead.
Yeah.
Wait, what? And it's like, not like there's an accident. Your whole family's dead. They're all dead. You got to identify the bodies. And it's because parallel to this happening, a bunch of hillbillies were, how they made them look like hillbillies was to shave their eyebrows and the one guy to shave the top of his head so that he looks like one of the munchkins from the Lollipop Guild.
Dude, that scene, that freaking houseboat scene. God damn.
That just went on like 5 minutes too long. It was really uncomfortable to sit through.
It was very, very, very rapey and not
very.
He kills his father by shoving a fish in his mouth that somehow makes his face explode with blood.
Yeah, well, they broke his teeth out.
Yeah, with a bunch of fish, and the hillbilly guy who looks like somebody I went to school with, but it's not because he's going to be like 20 years older than me. Kills his mother by boiling her face with the most hilarious Nickelodeon children's show bubble sounds.
Yeah, it's and trigger warning, like sexual assault is pretty much assured to be happening in the background of this movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of uncomfortableness, but it's not the most graphic I've seen.
Yeah,
and it's not like it's just implied. Like there's a lot of over the clothes, like groping and stuff that it would be uncomfortable. Obviously, there's your trigger.
Yeah.
As well as like implied like people ogling and stuff. But his sister makes it away. Makes it away with them. So he goes up there to the houseboat, finds his dad's stuff and he realizes that his sister's probably not dead, goes to the marina, meets a new friend out of the blue, which is the older dude. And he's like, nice bike, blah, blah, blah. Hillbillies show up. They start to have a big fight. And then out of the blue, old man on the bike just rides out to do a stunt into the water to distract them for a second. And yada, yada, yada. But I'm just going to pause on this part of the scene because I was like, where have I seen old man before? The character playing King. And I'm like, where have I seen him before? Where have I seen him before? And then I realized, not only is it a famous person, I know this person. So it's actually, and I don't know, you probably don't know him, Aaron, but Michael, you would have heard of him.
Okay.
In fact, you've probably heard of his music or people he's been associated with. It's Ronnie Hawkins.
Really?
That's Ronnie Hawkins. He just died this past year, but Ronnie Hawkins is one of the most famous Canadian musicians. Well, he's not Canadian. He was originally from Arkansas, and he was like a rockabilly, like 1950s, 1960s, early rock star dude who was sort of middling success in the States, came up to Toronto in the early 60s, and then basically created the entire Canadian rock and roll scene.
Okay.
So he put together the bands for Janis Joplin, as well as the band called The Band.
No,
and a bunch of other. Basically, he was the guy. He had an eye for musicians. He would gather other musicians that needed new players, and he would find people to play in their bands, and then they would become famous people later on. He also had a few like number one hits back in the day, and he used to go around, like he was on like Johnny Carson and all that. And what he was known for here is he's basically started like the modern rock and country western scene in Canada. He played up here for decades and decades and had huge hits, but had his big thick Arkansas accent, yet he was like a Toronto native. And I met him when he played the Kitchener Blues Fest in 2009.
Oh, okay.
He was just out in the crowd hanging out, and like the Kitchener Blues Fest, we get like a couple 100,000 people that show up. People show up from all over the States and everywhere. It's the biggest blues festival in Canada. So obviously him being a big rock and roll blues guy, he showed up. And so I was like, where did I see him? I'm like, that's the Ronnie Hawkins. I know him, like legit talked to him when, we're all having like street hot dogs and stuff. And he was out there chilling between sets. So I've met that dude. So that's my little Ronnie Hawkins story there. So I was like, because it was burning a hole in my brain. I'm like, I know this guy. But again, I saw him like 20 years later. So he was a lot older. But yes, so that's my story. So Michael, you know, like, again, if you don't know his music, you know the name.
Oh,
right?
yeah, for sure. 100%.
Like, it's the kind of thing like your parents 100% know him.
Mm-hmm.
And if you did a quick YouTube search, you'd be like, oh, I know his music. He's one of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so anyway, let's go. So continuing on, the movie drags a fair bit. It's a lot of scenes. Like, the rest of this movie is how do we recover sister who he doesn't necessarily know is still there, but he thinks that they have her. And then it's a bunch of back and forth of the hillbillies coming to attack him and him attacking the hillbillies. And then it turns into Rambo. And he kills a bunch of them in weird and interesting, but also cheap ways. I took a picture. What was the guy's name? I took a picture of the guy that shaved the top of his head to look like a lollipop gill dude.
Yeah.
Okay.
The one when he gets on the tractor at the end. I could not stop laughing at the faces this guy was making.
Yeah, it was a little bit cartoonish. It was kind of ridiculous.
Was it the guy with like the thick glasses? Like
yes,
Bubble?
that guy. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. And I swear the guy that played like the main bad guy with the shaved eyebrows,
Mm-hmm.
I was positive that I've seen him before somewhere.
You know what's weird? He kind of gave me a weird Alan Tudyk vibe from Tucker and Dale versus Evil in a weird kind of way.
A little bit. I'm trying to figure out what was his name. He was Junior, I think.
Yeah, that was the character's name, but I know the guy you mean.
And I'm trying to see, like, he's obviously not somebody famous, but, you know, long story short with this film, he ends up saving the sister. He barely gets hurt because that's how these action movies work. Everybody dies. It's a bunch of squibs. Nothing super memorable there.
He does get caught in a bear trap randomly.
Yes, randomly.
Also, there's one moment just before he goes to save his sister, and it's sort of meant to be the hero Rambo montage. He puts on a shirt that says, "I'm a snake eater," and this is a shirt that's been around since Vietnam or whatever it is. And he puts on a bandana.
It's supposed to be representative of his
unit or whatever.
His elite unit. Yet he's cut it into a like
crop top,
woman's crop top.
Can we also talk about how the old guy basically ruined his Harley Davidson and turned it into like a jet ski?
Yeah, that was so random. Like, you're gonna need this. Why?
Why did you wreck my bike? You SOB?
It was probably the producers were like, we got Ronnie Hawkins, we got to use him because he's semi-famous. Like, in Canada he's really famous, but he's semi-famous in the States, so like we got to use him for something. At the same time, like, the character was completely useless.
Yeah,
like most of the characters in this were kind of pointless. It was so odd. Like, the dialogue was so stilted and odd in this movie. Like, it was hard to pay attention, but it was also hard to take my eyes off of it. So I'm looking at Junior here. I'm trying to see on his IMDb if he ever did anything else. And oh no, I thought he was in the third movie as a different character, but he's not. But he really didn't do anything else. Like, he did like one or two appearances and things. So he's not who I thought he was. But anyway, I will give a little trivia on this. So it was obviously filmed in Canada.
Oh yeah.
Michael, can you take one guess as to where it was filmed?
I think when I was doing my research on this, I want to say it was filmed in New Brunswick, right?
No.
Really? Where was it filmed?
You are never going to guess. I'll give you two guesses in Ontario.
Can you give me a hint?
It's not Toronto.
Collingwood area?
No. Peterborough.
Really? Okay, I could see that.
And I saw that at the end of the credits, they listed a Peterborough business or two.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking, and it was all like local. Like, Peterborough it's not the middle of nowhere. It's between Toronto and Ottawa. and it's like it's like known for being where the Greyhound stops. If
Wow.
that makes any sense. It's one of those. Like, it's the bigger city where the Greyhound actually goes to. And I'm like, they filmed it in Peterborough. And I'm like, did they film it near Peterborough? And I was looking up, it's like, oh yeah, because Ronnie Hawkins had a place near there. He lived in Toronto and then also had a place in Peterborough. So it's like, did they film this entire movie around Ronnie Hawkins' schedule? And it's probably true.
Huh.
So that's basically the story. Also, like, he reunites with it is supposed to be his sister, right?
Yeah, he rescues his sister, who is like sexually threatened continually through the film.
Like a bunch. It's weird.
Yeah, it's really uncomfortable.
I will say this. What's interesting is, if you read the plot synopsis or script, and it's true when you think about it, they don't actually abuse her. They go to, but every time one of them goes to, one of them stops the next person.
Yeah. It's because she's supposed to be underage.
But she's like 25.
Yeah, but that's what's implied, is that the younger sister is like,
it's like
17
he's supposed to
or
be
something
like
that.
Like, it's implied that he's supposed to be like 30.
Yeah.
No, wait, no, he's got to be older.
Yeah.
Because he's supposed to be a non-vet. Let's say he's almost
25. Supposed to be 40. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I think he would have to have been supposedly born between like 48 and 1950 or 52. Because if he got out of Nam in like 75 or 76, and then he became a police officer, became a detective, and yada, 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 yeah, he'd have to be like 40. But he was like...
Well, the actor was born in 58. So, yeah he's like 30
he's too
years
young
old.
to have served.
Yeah.
Like, well, okay, he would have owned, in real life, he would have been like 16 when the war ended.
Yeah.
Or, well, ended in quotes. Like, when the evacuation happened.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, he doesn't look a lot older. He doesn't look like the age he's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's like a 1980s style teenager, and it's a 1980s style 30, which is the new 40, I guess.
Yeah, it's like he's playing older and she's playing younger, if that makes sense. So the movie kind of ends, but did you notice something? They, as cheap and as crappy as the incidental music was in this, they paid for a theme song.
Sure. Which surprised me, but I think that's
did you
because
listen to the lyrics?
Oh, God, I can't remember the lyrics.
The lyrics are basically, they took his sister and they're gonna do things to her, and they're like singing all happy.
Oh God!
And I'm like, what is this? What is happening here?
Well, I know that they thought they actually had like a decent movie even before it was released. That's why they started filming the second movie, like even before the first one was in theaters.
It was back-to-back filming, and like, when I was saying that it was released in theaters, I don't think it was released in theaters in the States. I think it was released in theaters here to like fulfill some sort of CanCon sort of situation where the theaters had to show certain Canadian things, because it had a budget of 1.2 million, but that would go a lot farther at that time here using all of our own crews, because like, I'm 100% going to guarantee that Lorenzo Lamas was the only American in this. Well, Ronnie Hawkins was already at this point a citizen here, but like, he was the only person getting paid in US dollars.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody else was.
And boy, he uses a weird gun in this movie too. Can I talk about that really quick?
Yes. That's what I was going to ask. I was going to be like, hey guys,
he's using a fully automatic version of the Ruger Mini 14.
That's what I thought it was. Yeah.
Okay, so it uses a NATO 5.56 round, and it really is an automatic weapon, but it's very strange for him to have, especially in Canada. Let's put it that way. Like, it wasn't really a big thing in Canada at all. It was barely used in the U.S. outside of law enforcement, and only in a few places like New York City and things like that. So him having that for this movie in Canada just seems, I don't know.
Yeah,
do you think
armor
it was functional?
Yeah, I would say so anyway.
Yeah, the armor was pretty good in this, but I mean, it's not like that there's a ton of weapons used. It's mostly just kind of random shotguns and yeah, just random shotguns and a couple revolvers.
And then the thing that struck me as odd with this and the Ruger is he randomly finds it underwater.
Yeah, he dropped it when he got thrown from the motorcycle jet ski thing.
Yeah.
He actually drops it in the river, and he doesn't come out with it. Like, he lost it in the river somewhere, and then he gets it back. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he spends a couple moments reassembling it. Like, I'm gonna put on this like flash suppressor because
Oh,
okay.
You mean the commando moment?
Yeah, I was like, yeah, it's the thing that bothers me about that moment specifically is I know it's meant to mirror Rambo, but he puts on the fucking headband and he's going up to save his sister in Murder Shack. And then he gets caught in a bear trap and he immediately takes off badass bandana to bandage his leg.
He puts the bandana on and I went, look at this doof.
Yeah, that's what I'm like, this dork, look at this.
Like, he's not even wearing it right. Like I was like, oh, if he put it around his head, like wrapped it up and tied it with his big poofy hair, but he covered his poofy hair and it made him look like a complete doofus. and it's like, this is his commando moment. And him jumping out of the water. And then it's just like slow-mo on his body. I'm like, this was clipped out for the promotional stuff when they were trying to sell it to like Israel and Bulgaria.
Now, we've got to talk about the second movie here.
Oh God!
So the first movie ends, and then I go, "What's the second movie going to be like?" Oh. And it turns out
it's worse, but also better in a sense because I'm going to read you the Wikipedia because whoever wrote this, chef's kiss. You are a beautiful human being, and I want to meet you.
The second movie, I will say this before you start, Michael, is a lot more fun.
Oh yeah,
like, for sure.
Worlds better.
Like this went for, like, the first movie went from being something where it looked like on paper they were trying to make a serious action movie, and then when they couldn't, they improvised. This looks like by the time they went to this, and looking at the first film, and I'm like 1.2 million. I have a feeling they were given $2.5 million, which at that time period, if you did like a conversion, that would have been roughly 5 million Canadian dollars. And that was probably their budget. And they thought probably we're going to make one movie. And I'll bet you the producers came at the last minute and said, make two. And they went, what? 5 million would have made them a really good action movie at that time.
Yeah.
For a low budget movie. Like, we're talking like that's the kind of budgets that in 1988, stuff like Van Damme, Dolph Lundgren, they were getting that kind of budget, and those movies were making like 30 million. So they could have done it. And then I'll guarantee the producers were like, no, we want to. And they had to split it. And it looks like the budget went into the second movie.
Yeah, because they have a lot more star power in it, if you can believe that. And also, before we go on to the second movie, randomly one of the guys from Welcome Back, Kotter, shows up as an arsonist in the last like 2 minutes. Yeah, torture.
Yeah.
For like 2 minutes of that scene must have been improv.
Well, he's in the whole movie.
Yeah,
like it's literally what is it, Horseshack?
Yeah, Horseshack from Welcome Back, Kotter. But it was just like, okay, that's a cameo. All right, so we're going to talk about the second movie, and I'm just going to read you the Wikipedia because it's so ridiculously written. I'm surprised it stayed there this long. Plot. In this installment of the series, Jack Soldier Kelly, Lorenzo Lamas, fights the inner city war on drugs with the help of his criminal and comedic sidekick, Speedboat, after a string of kids die from poison.
Which by the way, I could not stop laughing. Like, could you imagine you're an aspiring young black actor and you show up and then the role you're given is Speedboat?
Yeah, and that's the guy who played the first openly gay character in the Revenge of the Nerds series. I think it's Larry B. Scott's his name. So anyway, so the article the thing goes on to read. So Kelly immediately leaps into action by uncovering a cache of weapons that he saved from his Marine days, which includes C4 grenades, one handgun, and a bunch of other shit. So Kelly immediately leaps into action after uncovering a cache of weapons he saved from his Marine days and busting into a drug stronghold, guns blazing, taking out 4 scumbags in the process. After his renegade efforts, he's arrested but saved from jail by his quick by his quick-thinking lawyer who pleads insanity, sending Soldier to the insane asylum. Here he will meet a, quote, crazy character, such as a neurotic computer programmer, a sexaholic former televangelist, who's one of the most underused and funniest characters in this movie, I might add, and the pyromaniac known as Torchy, that Soldier busted at the end of the original Snake Eater. This cast of oddball characters both assist and hinder Soldier's quest for justice, usually in cringeworthy fashion. After some hospital hijinks that allow Soldier a way of escaping unnoticed, he and Speedboat continue their fight against the drug dealers of the city. After a trail of explosives and bodies, Soldier and Speedboat do away with the scumbag crime bosses, for some reason that's highlighted here, responsible for the poison drugs, killing them with their own tainted supply. Kelly is found not guilty of the earlier murders by reason of temporary insanity, despite killing about 20 other people in that time. The film ends with an extremely bizarre dance number in the mental institution as the castmates and everyone is happy. How that made it through the Wikipedia, people, I am so surprised.
This movie was like being on drugs watching it.
It was weirdly fun.
It's fun, and there are some amazing scenes in it. Absolutely amazing scenes. But like between them, it's just like filler, which is weird because the great scenes are truly great. Like when the psychiatrist doctor is taken hostage by like a crazy patient, and Lorenzo Lamas just is acting like he doesn't give a crap if she lives or dies, and it's all an act. And he just stands up, disarms the guy, and sits back down like he doesn't really care what just happened. It's so weird, or how security is so lax in this mental institution for the criminally insane that there are people crossing paths in the ventilation ducts, including a pizza delivery guy.
And
we'll get to
that.
Oh
my God!
Like the way it opens, dude. We're in this gymnasium for some reason.
It looked like the set of the movie, that breakdancing movie. Help me out.
Electric Boogaloo?
Yeah, that's what I thought this movie was for like half a second.
And so he's no longer a cop for some reason.
He's Johnny Law, or not Johnny Law.
Well, it's because he's on suspension.
But he's checking in on who? Like Speedboat. He wasn't checking in on him. He just happened to be there. It doesn't explain why he was there.
I think they were friends, or like he's a contact or something.
Like I guess that he's
a buddy.
But again, why was he there? Like there's no explanation as to why this movie starts.
It just does. Yeah.
So whatever new drug, in quotes, as in any 80s and 90s new drug movie, Speedboat's sister takes some drug to get that edge so that she can get her scholarship for, was it
whatever,
cheerleading
or something.
Oh yeah, because they're having the dance off thing. Yeah. So they're wanting the edge. She wants all the energy, so she's snorting all the cocaine. Yeah.
So but they were calling it the new drug, and a bunch of people, they all overdose, and he's there, and like he looks up to God for help for a second, and the music the music is very different in this movie than the first one, and nobody's doing like CPR or anything, and
they're expecting God to help.
Yes, and because Speedboat is an informant or friend, but also somebody he's busted a bunch, his solution to his sister getting hurt is, I'm going to kill everybody
with grenades, explosives, and traps. It's nutty.
Like, I'm no longer a police officer, so I'm just able to kill people. and he goes and tries to kill people, and when he gets put into the institution, I went, oh, it's going to be one of these movies. And he gets in, like, he gets in there, and it's they're like, we're going to make this a fun mental institution movie now. And they introduce all the characters. I'm like, oh, there's Horshack, and then there's the televangelist, and then again, the character with the mustache that was the computer programmer, that was sort of that sits next to him and is, I guess, the most sane, except for when he goes a little angry. Turns out I've met him too.
It's Harvey Acton, is it?
Yes, Harvey Acton. I've met him too. I was like, God. So he was on, for anybody wondering, if you're looking at him, you're like, I've seen that guy's face before. That would be because he was on Cagney and Lacey for, what was it? Like almost 100 episodes, as well as very prolific in the 80s and 90s in cartoons and voiceovers. He played Bowser in all the Mario cartoons until, I guess, the late 90s. What else? Something that's maybe a little more contemporary. He was Sam in the Sam and Max Freelance Police, Michael. If you
Who was this again? Which character?
The guy with the guy with the mustache.
Holy shit. Oh my God. I can hear it in my head now. You're right.
Yeah. And he was a judge in a shit ton of episodes of Law and Order.
Which another person who pops up during this, Alex, because you just reminded me of this. One of the goons we run into later is a guy who has like, he's got a bald head, kind of, but he's some hair. He's got this big bit of facial hair. Canadian people will recognize him. I think his name is George Buzza. The live action movie all of us know him from is he was one of the bikers in the first X-Men movie, when Wolverine is in the bar. He's also the guy who randomly shows up in Diary of the Dead, stealing the TV when they go back to college for like 5 minutes. But everybody in this room knows his voice. That's Dr. Hank McCoy, the fucking beast from X-Men, the animated series.
Well, where I know him from outside of that was he was the brother on the Sinbad TV show. Not Sinbad the comedian, Sinbad the sailor.
Oh my God, you're right.
Yeah, the older brother with the big giant sword. Back when everybody was trying to copy Hercules and Xena.
Which Sinbad was a cooler show, by the way.
It was so bad. But yeah, so him, but yes, so that Harvey Acton guy, so how I know him or how I've met him when I was very little, was when I would visit my grandparents. My grandfather, every week, especially when he got closer to retirement, would go down to Sam the Record Man in Toronto. He would go every week and peruse through, like, because it was a flagship, gigantic store. Like, we're talking multi-level, big. And he would go there and, take me out with my grandma and that. We'd go there. He'd be there for like 30 minutes going through all the jazz records and big band. And like my grandpa had like 10,000 records. And this is one of the guys that would just show up there and peruse the records with him. Like all the old guys would show up and they'd be like, oh, what did you find? Like, so I met him a couple times, just, in casual, like he was a record guy who was there. I wouldn't say he was like a friend of my grandpa, but like very often they would be shopping together, looking through the records and finding like weird stuff. Huh. So I find that funny. And Mike, you know where you know him from?
Where?
Probably more than anything.
Where?
He's the voice of the Leon's commercials.
Get the fuck out of here! He is.
Leon's don't pay don't pay until 1997. No interest. This guy did like 500,000 TV commercials, almost always as the voiceover for like layaway for different stores.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
So again, it's so random, but I'm like, there's two of these movies, and I fucking know people in two of them, and I had no idea. Not know as in like friends, but know as in I've met and talked to. Like, what the hell? And
6 Degrees of Alex now.
And again, no idea that this one was also filmed in around Peterborough and Ontario and all that. And I'm like, because obviously they filmed them back to back, right? And I'm watching it, and I'm like, who would have thought that Harvey Acton would be one of the best actors in this movie? It's like Harvey Acton and Rorschach are like the best actors in this film, really. I was trying to think if there was anybody else even semi-famous in this.
Not that I saw.
Let me see, the detective that he's working with, the woman detective, she was in 2 other movies with Lorenzo Lamas. I don't really want to do those movies though. CIA Codename Alexa and CIA 2 Target Alexa. She's also one of the lead actresses in Halloween 4 and Bride of Reanimator.
Bride of the Reanimator. She was in Renegade, the Renegade TV series too.
Yeah.
See that? Yeah.
And I'm trying to think, who else might have been in this that we would have seen before? We know Speedboat. There wasn't really that many other like cameos. But anyway, he meets the crew. They're all interesting people. And again, I'm sitting there, they're all playing cards and stuff. I'm like, these guys may be kind of like quote unquote crazy, but they seem like kind of fun guys to hang out with. Just, don't let them set you on fire or steal things from you or erase your identity.
Yeah.
And when you find out that like, they're like, oh, it's time for the game.
And you're like,
my
oh,
God.
no.
And they're like, what is the game? Apparently this mental institution, this prison for the criminally insane or whatever it is, everybody in there, including all of the orderlies and doctors, they just all let them have a fight to the death. I guess it's supposed to be a fight to the death.
Yeah, it's Thunderdome in wheelchairs.
It's full on wheelchair jousting.
Yeah.
Because both of them had to have one leg straight.
This is the underground world. Us handicapped people are never supposed to tell you able-bodied folk about, just so you guys know.
But we know because we're friends with you. You have to have somebody there.
It's true. Somebody has to be my proverbial pit crew.
Well, somebody has to be the corner man to hype you up and get your water. Somebody has to put the Vaseline on you and give you your smelling salts, right? Yeah. So anyway, you go in there and they're like, you're up against Goliath. And when they turned to the Goliath, I almost pissed my pants laughing. The worst facial makeup effects I've ever seen.
Yeah, I'm like, is he
in my
supposed to be a
entire life.
Like that's what you're trying to go for?
They're like, he killed his parents and his sister and his friends and their neighbors. And then they turned him and it's Tom Skerritt with a bunch of putty on his face and hillbilly teeth. And I went, what? And it's such a bad makeup job that his makeup is literally gray plasticine.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't do anything to make the color match his neck or arms.
Yeah, it's just there on him. Yeah.
And a pair of fake teeth. And he almost goes over the edge or he does go over the edge, but he's holding on. He's like, help. And Snake Eater goes to help, and Soldier goes to help him, but the one inmate decides to try to kill him by smacking his hands with his crutches, and then it just cuts away, and I'm like, they're gonna come back to this guy later because they're gonna have to, because like, why would you put the makeup on? And it did. It looked like Tom Skerritt with makeup on, and they move on. And that's when they finds out he can leave whenever he wants because they're getting Chinese food delivered whenever they want it. And he goes into the air duct, which, by the way, it's the fucking TARDIS, because when he goes into the air duct, I looked at that air duct and I'm like, well, I guess I would just die and stay in there because I can't fit in that air duct. And then he goes in there and it's like 5 feet wide by like 4 feet tall.
Well, because they need all that room for all the pizza deliveries they're getting.
Well, and hookers.
And
right?
hookers,
So,
yeah, there is a hooker that comes through.
And it turned into like something from like Laugh-In or like you'd see on like the Carol Burnett show. And like he's walking through or going through the vent, and then this lady of the night shows up. She's like, I'm so and so's present, and it's like it's the televangelist character. I didn't write it down, but she quotes a Bible verse that he gives her, and it was like, it was basically, it's better to spread your seed in a whore than to spread it into the air.
Yeah.
Again, I'm paraphrasing, but basically, it's better to sleep with whores than it is to jerk off.
Yeah, and Lorenzo Lamas, he's like, I
must have missed that lesson.
I remember that part. I don't remember that part.
And like, she's like, oh, excuse me, they're gonna worm their way by each other, and then she looks down, touches his leg, sees his crotch, and then she's just like, hey,
you wanna hang out with me a little bit later? I can come back. I think that's Felicia Schulman. The actress is Felicia Schulman, who actually has a lot of credits.
Like a lot of character work?
Yeah, a lot of credits. Compared to many of the people that are in this.
And that's probably I fully believe it. And then as he's going through, it's like, it's turning into like, you know what it reminded me of? It remember in Batman when Adam West would be climbing the building and then everybody would just talk to him through the windows?
Sure, yeah.
And then the Canadian Domino's pizza guy shows up. They had a point of having the Canada logo and everything, and he's like, hey, order one more pizza and you get a free what was it? Some bread or something.
Yeah, free bread
pasta.
Yeah. Oh, antipasta. Yeah.
And I'm like, was that a special they were running in the early 90s here? And they wanted to put that in for it?
My favorite,
like the old Bigfoot ads?
There's one thing that he says. He's like, if you order one more pizza, you get your choice of toppings or a free antipasta. And then Lorenzo Lamas pauses and goes, no shit, eh? And it's just it's the inflection in his voice. I died laughing at that.
Yeah.
No shit.
And then, so he gets out, and all this time, Speedboat has been trying to, help him find the bad guys who, again, wasn't paying much attention to nondescript mob people. And also, I paused it because I could not stop laughing. Like, I was in tears in this movie.
Okay.
Because I was like, what the fuck? A Speedboat why was he wearing his mother's raincoat? Like, it looked like he was wearing his mother's raincoat and hat. It was too big for him, the wrong color. It was a women's jacket.
Yeah.
And it's just like, was it literally like they didn't have anything on set and like somebody in the, like one of the producers was like, just wear my jacket? We'll never find out. I mean, if we ever get to talk to Lorenzo Lamas, maybe. But still, I was like, what? And then again, blowing people up. It's a lot of shooting. He's trying to hide. He's somehow investigating with the one detective while not letting the other detective know that he's out of the institution, and then sneaking back in. And then the mob comes and tries to get them, and he has to try to break out to go after Speedboat, but then he gets put into a padded room, and then Goliath comes and saves the day by breaking in. And when he goes to leave, Goliath apparently just can talk. Goliath can't go. Goliath not allowed to leave.
But you help Goliath. Goliath help
you save Goliath. Goliath help. And I'm like, oh my God. Like that was like trauma shot on video, like dollar store level acting.
Yeah. Boy, I don't know. Some of this movie I must have left my body in. And just kind of like I don't remember the padded room scene, even though it clearly was there. I mean, wow.
They have a big shootout with all the mobsters together, and they put themselves in a panic room, and they're like, I had the guy that reinforced Fort Knox do this one room.
Yep.
and
okay,
when they go and they find the giant bags of flour, I mean cocaine with poison in it, which is already getting all over them because it's flour flying around in the room. They decide we're just going to kill all the mobsters by dumping it into the room. And Speedboat goes, hey, it'll go faster if I turn the heat up. And he says that as he turns to the left, and there is an industrial fan hooked up to the HVAC system where it's supposed to be. It's not a heater, though. It's just a fan that says low, medium, and high, written with black marker on masking tape.
Yeah, it's like the Bat computer. Yeah.
And when he turns it on high, somebody in the other room just turns a box fan on full blast. And it blows the cocaine or poison, whatever it was supposed to be, all over them. The new drug. And then they all die. And as you said earlier, he gets declared insane, presumably so he can have sex with his doctor. That's
medical ethics
are. It's implied that she wants to have more sessions with him to make him sane, but that's innuendo for I want you to plow me. That's what and even the music is doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when they start to have sex, that's when his buddies start having a weird dance in the hallway, and it cuts to credits. And again, they hired a band to make music for this movie. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, that scene was like, what's happening right now? It was very strange. I was so lost at the end because I looked down at my phone for just a second to check emails at like 2:00 in the morning, as one does, and they're just dancing in the fucking hallway, just having themselves a grand old time. It was like, what the hell did I miss?
You know what? I think they filmed the movie in order. I have this weird feeling that they didn't shoot this, whatever would be most efficient. I think that was a wrap shot. And they did it as a joke.
I could believe it. I really could.
Yeah. Okay, I could believe that, yeah.
Now, did Darlene watch this with you?
No, Darlene was already traumatized from the first one.
Would she have been more traumatized by this one?
No, I don't think so. She would have just been confused. Very, very confused.
And then, so these were filmed back to back in 88. They were both released in 89. And then we fast forward a couple of years, and he's had a movie or two in between. The third movie has clearly a bigger budget. It looks more like a real movie. And by that, I mean the cinematography is better. The acting is better across the board. It is not a better movie, but the acting is better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Michael, what did you think of the third movie?
I don't know. Like, there are parts of the third movie I liked, but other parts I was just honestly just kind of bored. And it's weird because I think Lorenzo Lamas is fine in it, and his weird cowboy sidekick is fine, but everybody else is just kind of going through the motions. Like, this one didn't feel as fun. And where the one part, like right in the very beginning of it, there's a part where they have this family who's hired a soldier to go help find their kidnapped daughter or something. And the daughter comes out and like, "Hi, this is my daughter, so-and-so." And she pulls up her shirt and pulls down her panties. And he's like, whoa. I don't know what I'm supposed to think about this, but I'm good. And
so basic plot. We'll get the very basic plot out first. He's no longer a police officer because
he's on suspension again. I need your badge.
Yes, so sorry.
Couple dozen people,
He killed a couple dozen people. He got off for being mentally ill. The police brought him back, which I guess kind of tracks nowadays.
All right.
The police brought him back. They're like, "Yeah, you killed like 30 people. You're a little crazy. What's the big deal? You're a cop." That does track. But anyway, he's brought back. Does something bad enough again that they kicked him off temporarily.
Now think about what that had to have been to get him kicked off again.
At one point, I think they sort of look and reference, and it might have been police brutality. Because he's got a file of complaints that they're going through apparently.
Yeah.
So it's something. And in the meantime, he's become a private investigator partner to a bounty hunter / investigator. It's a bounty hunter, but not in the sense of like going after bail people. It's not just private investigating because he's specialty is getting kidnapped people back.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what kind of? But they call him private investigator, but he's really a bounty hunter. And they've apparently been working together for years because they're like good friends or whatever. Even though the guy's like 25 years older than him, and does he even have a name? No, he doesn't. It's just Cowboy.
Mm-hmm.
He never gets a name. And they're hired by this nice, sweet old couple who have a daughter who had some sort of traumatic injury, either to her brain or body, and she now just has sex with anybody.
Okay, I can explain it, I guess. It's that she was kidnapped for a while, and they basically raped her over and over and over again until they broke her mind. That's what it is, and it was the most.
I was trying to get away without saying stuff like that.
It was the most. Well, I mean, look, if people need to know ahead of time before going into this movie what's there, because I was in like right away going, "Holy shit! I can't believe they're even implying," and then they don't really even imply. They just come out and say it. "Oh yeah, she was kidnapped and raped for months and months at a time, and when she got back out, she just really liked sex, so now she's a nymphomaniac." Like, what world are you people in that thinking that this is okay to put on screen?
I'm sorry that our country produced this.
I mean, yeah,
but yes. So, this at one point, this is about him going out. He's investigating a few things, but ultimately it boils down to going after a biker gang that has done a bunch of different things, but has kidnapped her and made her basically their willing zombie sex slave, and the parents have hired him to go find her and get her back. And along the way, he meets up with Bam Bam Bigelow, the wrestler.
Oh yeah, the guy that my kidneys don't work real well and I can't piss. Yeah.
I'm watching like, is that Bam Bam Bigelow? And yeah, it's Bam Bam Bigelow.
Bam Bam Bigelow and his shoddy kidneys. Yeah.
And yet again, Bam Bam Bigelow is one of the better actors in this. That's saying something.
Yeah.
But he plays Goose.
He's memorable.
He gets shot. He gets shot in the foot, and his response is to go, "Aren't you going to take me to the hospital?" I actually laughed at that because I was like, "That's kind of funny."
Yeah, he takes Lorenzo Lamas outside to beat the shit out of him, and he goes, "Hold on a second, I gotta piss."
my kidneys is shot.
So he's got to wait to fight. He's got don't run away now. I gotta piss, and he's just pissing on a wooden fence right next to like a house. So it's like the house's backyard.
And this is all because he had to go to the topless bar to interview the girl that might flip on the gang, that might know where she is. Shoots him in the foot, leaves him there, rescues Goose's girlfriend, who then gets blasted with a shotgun by Goose.
Yeah.
A pretty good squib job on this movie. Had better blood effects. And all this boils down to, again, big war with the biker gang. There was definitely more money in this because there's the scene at the end where he drives a truck through the side of the building. Mm-hmm. They would not have had the money to do that in the first two movies.
I actually thought like the shootout at the motel, that they started burning up the motel, actually was kind of cool.
Yeah, there's moments in this.
Yeah.
But again, it sort of blurs together.
Yeah, for sure.
There
were parts of this that were just kind of bleh. Like, this is the one that I liked the least. And that kind of sucks because I don't know.
Nobody returns from the second movie.
Yeah, like I was kind of hoping we'd find out, hey, what happened to Speedboat? Maybe his sister is a lawyer or something by now. I don't know. There's like, I think there was potential in this franchise, even as a direct-to-video sort of thing. I don't know. This one just felt kind of paint by numbers. Like, this was sort of, I feel anyway, when you look at all those direct-to-video movies, some of them are really good and some of them are not so good. This showed we've got a budget, but we don't care. It's clear that Lorenzo Lamas is still having fun, but everybody else around him, maybe Bam Bam Bigelow and maybe a few of the other actors, maybe Cowboy, are having some fun, but it just seems very bleh. Also, no memorable villain.
Well, okay. The leader of the biker gang had a couple funny lines, but they were very, very inappropriate.
Oh, yeah. So much so we can't even repeat them.
I wrote a couple of them down and I was going to say them.
No.
But I won't because let's just say they're very derogatory towards the kidnapped victim.
Yeah.
And actually I will say something about the second movie. The second movie where they had the drug boss and all that, random over the top racism in a few scenes that were there for no reason. That wasn't in the third movie. The third movie was all about being horrible to the victim.
Yeah.
and just the mean streak that like Lorenzo Lamas has in this. He seems a little more mean, but then like snarky about it. And I was like, what are they going for with this? So they have their shootout. He rescues the girl. She saves herself at one point at the very end by stabbing a dude for the back of the neck. And then she's magically cured of her sex disease, as in like her disorder. And she's like wearing like a regular dress, and she's all schoolgirl nicey again. And instead of getting paid, Lorenzo Lamas just wants oranges. And when was that what they were? He was getting oranges from them, but then he gets the oranges, and I swear to God, they're apples once he shows up at the car.
They went bad.
Like,
they went bad between.
I'm not kidding. They're red, and I'm like, what the hell just happened here? But they get in the car and drive away, and again, they paid a band to do the music for this. It is the least memorable of the three. There's a few moments in there. The memorable parts are the what the fuck parts, and not the what the fuck hilarious.
Yeah.
The what the fuck, like, how did they get away with this? What the fuck? Who thought this dialogue was okay?
Yeah. I don't know. I think that overall, between all three of these movies, the general feeling I get is these were kind of greasy in like,
Yeah,
just because of the sexual violence stuff just really never sits well with me. I don't like it being used as plot points.
It's lazy.
Yeah, it's very lazy.
It wasn't really used in the second one though. So
no,
not
in the second one.
And you don't have to have seen the first one to watch the second movie either.
The second one feels like a completely different movie.
The second one almost feels like it could have been the first movie.
Yeah, because the first and the third are really, I don't know, very similar.
And I would almost say, like, if you're a fan of the ridiculous, or you thought what we said was funny, it's worth watching the first one and third. If you wanted to do a marathon with your friends and have a drinking game, do it. Just be aware there's going to be things in there that are like, oh,
There's about 10 minutes where you're like, this goes on just a little too long.
or like, prepare your significant others if you're going to watch it with your friends or even with them or just by yourself. Prepare them that when they walk in, they may have a couple what the fuck moments and give you the stare of what are you doing.
I got that while I was watching this, actually, to be quite transparent. My wife walked in. She's like, Michael, what the fuck are you watching? And I don't have a good answer for you, Blair. I don't.
Well, like I said, Darlene could. She had nightmares from the first one because of the kidnapping and like the constant threat of sexual violence. And then she didn't.
Sorry. I'm not. If you hear me, I'm not laughing at that. What she's going through. I'm laughing at that. I had no idea that's how bad it was when I sent it to you guys to watch.
And then she wanted nothing to do with the second and third movies, even though the second movie was way more lighthearted, even with all like the murder in it. But yeah, the third movie is wow.
Yeah. So, I mean,
the first two are definitely worth watching, I think.
And the third one, it's there. It's got it has a higher budget, but at the same time, it's not quite as good. Oh, one little thing. I went back and rewound in the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know when he gets thrown from the bike into the biker bar at the beginning? I paused it. One of the people in there, one of the servers, not the main server, one of the other server biker ladies, she's in Terminator 2.
Really?
Yeah. And I was like, what the F? You know the lady in Terminator 2, Michael know this for sure because you've seen it so many times.
Yeah.
You know when he walks into the bar?
Oh, and she looks him up and down?
Not the one that looks him up and down.
Yeah.
Blonde lady with the nose ring that looks at him and goes, is she smoking at the beginning when he walks in?
Okay.
She's the first one that looks at him, not the lady that looks him up and down.
Okay.
But the first lady. If you look at her, blonde, a little bit shorter hair that sort of looks like a 50s greaser, the way she's got her hair.
Mm-hmm.
She looks exactly the same in this movie.
Wow.
That was like, filmed a year or so earlier. So they must have grabbed a bunch of extras in both of them because I was like, I went almost frame by frame and I'm like, that's the same lady, but she's not in the credits and she's not in the credits of Terminator either. So I'm like, somebody knew somebody or somebody did a casting call and showed up in the background, or much more likely, she's a real biker and they got real bikers to just show up.
Yeah, that's probably likely too.
So again, little trivia thing, because I was like, again, I've seen Terminator 2 like 100 times, or maybe not 100, but like I've seen it enough that I know the scenes in my brain.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
and I'm like, that's that lady.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it a lot too, but I guess I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah.
The third film, I noticed, I don't think the third one was filmed in Ontario. There were some references that made it look like it was filmed around Montreal.
Yeah, Quebec. Yeah.
Some of the production stuff on there. And they dropped some of the like cheaper brands, I'm going to say in quotes, of sponsorships. Like they weren't sponsored by Hostess Chips of Toronto or what else do they have?
Well, like you posted the Pizza Hut with the maple leaf on it.
Yeah. They lost the Domino's contract and had to have Pizza Hut. But what was funny was I think it was the first or second movie. They had a sponsorship from, I think, Coca-Cola or Pepsi, because every movie does, right? Michael, there's a part in the first movie, I think, in the bar when they have all the beers around them. Somebody, instead of a rum and Coke in the background, they've got an RC Cola.
Wow, I didn't.
And I was like, what? Again, well, because see, my brain went to, once I saw somebody I've met, I was like, okay, what local shit can I find in here? I went to Where's Waldo mode. But yeah, I'm glad we watched it. I'm glad I watched it now and not when I was 14 and I had the VHS tapes, because if my parents had walked in watching that, they would have been like, what the? You're not allowed to get yourself tapes anymore.
They just seen a woman with like a heart surgery scar, completely naked.
They would have been like, what are you watching? I mean, then again, who knows? When I was 10 is when my uncle got me Blazing Saddles, right? So who knows? My parents let me have that.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So I guess, guys, what's our final summation of these things? Aaron, let's start with you first.
Oh boy. You know what? I think they're a product of their time. I don't think the first one and the second one definitely aren't bad. They're not great either. They're direct-to-video kind of action films. Just know what you're going in for. I would not recommend the third one at all. Mm-hmm. It very much bled into the background, and I honestly cannot remember a lot of the scenes from it, except for like the motel burning scene, and then like just how awful the one girl was basically described as being, and how just off the cuff they were about her trauma. But yeah, my thoughts are basically, if you want to watch a cheesy, late 80s, early 90s direct to video action, I mean, there's worse out there, but
Yeah. I guess for kind of my thoughts, and then I'll let Alex have the last kind of word on this. Yeah, this is definitely a product of their time. This is basically the art's typical 80s, 90s action flick where there is a likable enough leading man. They do have some interesting supporting characters. Speedboat being one of the more memorable supporting characters to come out of that 80s, 90s era kind of action movie funny person. And they were pretty funny in Revenge of the Nerds, and here they were given more to kind of chew on and do. Yeah, first two definitely worth watching if you can find it. Is it worth going for the ultimate Blu-ray, 4K, whatever? Nah, but if you can find it on YouTube or on Tubi or something, yeah, sure. There's worse ways to spend your time. They're better. I don't think this would be a bad pairing if you watched Action USA and maybe Snake Eater 2 back to back. I don't think that would be a terrible afternoon. The third movie you can completely skip. It's not interesting. It's just not entertaining really at all. As much as I like Lorenzo Lamas, I'd say that these movies converted me to be a fan, but I'm not going out to buy the Immortal box set anytime soon. So Alex, what's your final word on this?
Skip. Okay. As much as I love them, there's probably better pictures from Lorenzo Lamas to watch. And that's weird saying that. Like in between the second and third film, he made a movie called Final Impact, where it looks like a martial arts competition movie. And I'm thinking it's got to be terrible because he doesn't know any martial arts, but it's got to be fun, right? I would say watch the second one. Don't watch the first or third. Unless like you want to do a marathon.
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
And maybe, like I said, pick something else that he did around that time period. Like the second movie. After that, he did a movie called The Swordsman, where I'm just reading the synopsis to you because this sounds like something we might have to do eventually. Cop and accomplished fencer Andrew is assigned to protect archaeologist and museum curator Julie Wilkins, the only witness to the theft of the legendary sword of Alexander the Great. Andrew has recurring dreams about two men having a sword fight in what is to be a historical place. And it looks like they tried to rip off Highlander.
You know what? At some point, because I've been talking about this for years, I want to do a show on the Highlander franchise.
I might have to bow out because my blood pressure gets very high when I talk about anything after the TV show.
Wow. And, you know, I have the unpopular opinion that the second film is the best one.
Oh
On
my
its own.
God. Okay.
Yeah, see, everyone's like, oh my God, I can't believe that. But
No,
honest to God,
I am such a big fan of the TV show.
Same.
That was my show growing up. Like I had to race home when it would be on because I had to watch it. That was my show. I didn't see the original 2 movies until I was like 15 or 16. To me, all there was the TV show. And, you know, going back, I liked the first movie on its own. I like the first movie on its own. I like the second movie on its own. I don't like the third movie.
I like parts of the third movie.
The TV show, I really like the TV show. Endgame is terrible. And The Source, I thought I was going to have a heart attack from my blood pressure raising just watching it. So I don't know. Like if we do that one, I am taking edibles before we talk about it because I was so mad at how they did the franchise dirty with it. But yes, I will actually agree with you. I think Highlander 2 is the best of the movies overall.
All right.
On its own.
So we will be talking about who knows what's going to be coming up on Loose Cannon next, because we usually take a break at least a week between these things.
Oh, and Michael, my recommendation is don't watch any of these and just watch Lorenzo Lamas' TV show Air America, which is loosely based on the Blockbuster movie.
All right.
But it's basically an action show where he uses his cargo company as a cover for his beating the fuck out of people. And it's as a TV show, it has a higher budget than these movies.
Oh, wow. So anyway, guys, that's going to do it for us here at the Twig Video Store. We're going to rewind the tapes, make sure you've put them back in the right container, because there's always some asshole who confuses Jack Frost, the kids movie, with Jack Frost, the horror movie. We got the joke. Thank you very much. So from us here at This Week in Geek, we have been
Alex, the producer.
And I'm Aaron Pollyea.
I've been Mike the Birdman saying be kind, rewind. We'll catch you guys again next time right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
Are either one of these any good? Sir,
What?
are either one of these any good?
I don't watch movies.
Quick, change the channel.
You're wasting your life making shit! Nobody cares! These movies are terrible!
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.